public figures in their communities. It's like when you go to the grocery store and you see a kid from story time and they run right up to you uh, and you say, hey, and you do have to be your work self sometimes out of work. So your brand is always with you. Uh, but I guess the good news is that you don't have to be a professional marketer to produce marketing for your library or for yourself. There are kind of some key strategies, but they're pretty low level entry ways to kind of get your marketing out there. So, strategy, action, change, promotion, growth, success. It's all part of what we do anyway, as we tell our library story to, let the community know just what they're getting when they come into your libraries. All right, so we're gonna move to the next slide. This is the first time I'm using this particular software, so bear with me. All right,
Is
so has
everybody able to see, I'm sorry, I didn't, is everyone
you
able to see the slides?
I can.
Okay. I didn't know. I'm seeing a blank screen, but my computer's also weird, so I was just checking.
Okay. Melissa is saying yes, she can. So
Good. Sorry for the
they aren't.
interruption.
You're good. They aren't the prettiest slides in the world, so you're not missing much. But I can also send them afterwards as well. All right. Who has ever read or seen Simon Sinek, maybe his TED Talk, or read any of his books? I have a love-hate relationship with self-help books or leadership books. I find like one or two really great kernels of truth, and then they try to spool it out for 400 pages, and it gets a bit repetitive. But this started out as a TED Talk, and if you get the slides afterwards, this is a live link, and it will send you to that 18-minute TED Talk with Simon Sinek. Start with why. People don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it. And I know in libraries we are not a currency transaction institution, but we are a trust transaction institution, and it's worth taking a while and examining your own motivations and your library's motivations about why we do what we do. That is really the key to any marketing strategy, is to let people know your why. So like I said, if you haven't checked out that TED Talk, it's a little bit older, but the message really still is just spot on. So see if you can check that out after our session. So next we're going to talk about intentionality, on purpose and with purpose. So first you have to find your why, and then you need to share that why story with intention. I gave this example the other day. We've got a few new staff members who started here at the library, and we were talking about displays, which we'll be talking about a little bit later when we get into some of the nuts and bolts of things. 3 or more books, to me, equals a display. If you walk by and you just see 2 on top of a bookcase, or even just 1, does that feel like a display to you? No, it feels like, maybe a staff member or, a library patron just put a book or 2 back on top of, the bookcase. So it doesn't feel intentional. So why do we want to think about intentionality, even something as maybe low stakes as a book display? But why are you putting books out at all if you don't have a reason? So it is doing things kind of with that intention in mind. All right. So we all love Dolly Parton, right? The queen, and one of my favorite Dolly Parton quotes is, find out who you are and do it on purpose. And I try to keep that in mind for my own personal life and my professional life. And admittedly, there isn't a lot of difference between those two. I do hope you all have a better work-life balance than I do. But I think of this phrase every day to help keep me motivated and keep doing the good work that we all do. All right. So now I'm going to show you a little bit of Putnam's marketing and why we have some of the things picked that we do. So we did have an outside PR agency come in for a little kind of like mini strategic plan boot camp a couple years ago. Because usually in your organizations, more than one person creates flyers for promotion or creates displays, or and how is everyone kind of keeping the same mission uh, in everything they do, whether it is a 5 or 6 book display, or whether it is the ads that go out in the newspapers or the magazines in your communities, or the message that your director gives to the county commission when they go talk to them, because it all is part and parcel together. Even though you think, oh well, this might just be a book display, what is it in the grand scheme of things? It's all a part of it. So our mission statement here at Putnam is Putnam County Library strives to bring innovative and entertaining programming, diverse and inclusive collections, and new technology to the community. And then we use these 3 words, learn, explore, connect, as the 3 words that kind of connect everything that we do, because connection to us is one of the most important things you can do with your community. And then we pulled out even further from that, like our kind of 5 core values. Like I said, connection is kind of that very first word. Community service. We are a very service first organization, as I know you all are as well in your institutions. Courtesy and efficiency. We want to help people and we don't want to rush people, but we do strive to be as efficient in assisting people as possible, because that gives us more time to help more people. So any questions so far? Like I said, I do like a discussion. So if anyone wants to jump in at any time, please feel free. All right. And here's just kind of our one of our secondary logos that we use that with that Learn, Explore, Connect on there. All right. So here in Putnam County, we're actually blessed to have kind of kicked off a rebranding resurgence for most of our county agencies. When I became the director, we didn't really have a strong logo. We didn't really have a strong mission statement. So that was one of the first things I did, was try to cement our internal identity so we could go out and share that with our community. So we selected the colors purple and teal. And part of that was the decor already in the library. And another part of that was our 4 high schools in the county are, like Kelly green, deep blue, fire engine red, and like a maroon. And I didn't want our brand colors to have anything to do with any one of the high schools. So it didn't look like we favored one over the other, because while we have branches in those communities, the county-wide system needs to serve the whole county and not look like it is preferring one over the other. Our county commissioners, all the messaging that comes out of the county seat is that, Kelly green of the high school that the courthouse, the town it's in. And it does feel a little pointed, a little like, oh, these are our kids. These are our, this is our high school. So next, our Chamber of Commerce rebranded. And so they took our teal and made it their teal. And then their secondary color is this yellow. So that is actually our 3rd accent color. And then the CVB was next. And again, they took that teal. And so you'll see now, as lots of our other sister county agencies are rebranding, they're taking that teal, and why they may have different accent colors. You'll see the Development Authority was the latest one to rebrand, and you see our teal running through, a little darker teal, and then they've got this nice lime that is also one of their accent colors. So it tells a visual story about the partnership of all of the agencies here in the county. And it's subtle. It's a subtle, story, but it does show visually, when you look at all of us, our logos together, that we do have a plan, and that we all, while we have, different roles in growing and strengthening our community, we are all working together and not trying to, fight each other for market share. I mean, we all could use more money. We all, could use more customers, for a lack of a better word, but the interagency fighting isn't really a thing here, and I know some other counties it is, or sometimes I do feel like I'm stuck in a Parks and Rec episode when I start to grumble about the park and how much more money in the allocation they got than I did, and then I was like, wait a minute. Does this make me the evil librarian in that particular sitcom? It does. So, but we all work really well together, and I hope you all are lucky enough to do that at your institutions as well. All right. Now oops, did I hit the wrong button? All right, next slide. All right, marketing in action, which is why you all are actually here. How do you get out your library's story? Well, oops, there we go. A lot of different ways. They say content is king. So where are you putting your content? What kind of content are you putting out? Are you into Reels? Are you on TikTok? Are you doing video? How's your website? Has it been updated in the last 5 years? Is it updated pretty frequently, or is it a static web page? Your signage outside of the library, is it clear? Does it, tell your story in a glance with your logo, or, whatever story you're trying to tell? Is your signage inside, whether that's for a program coming up or, where to find books in the library, is it clear? Is it helpful? So there are many different ways to tell your story. And we will talk a little bit about all of that here in just a second. And I know we talked a few minutes ago about finding your why. And these next two phrases also play a large part in a lot of my decision making and our decision making here at Putnam about how we put our messages out. Again, we go back to the love-hate relationship with self-help books, but this statement really stuck with me, and I'm sure a lot of you recognize it. Brene Brown's "Clear is kind, unclear is unkind." And that's internal messaging. It's talking to your staff or your colleagues, and it definitely applies to the people you're talking to outside of your colleagues and the library, whether it's your patrons or whether it's your future patrons. So keeping everything clear. And I don't know if you can put a hand up in this platform, but has anyone done improv or theater? Another phrase that kind of rules my life is yes and. When you're doing improv, the scene keeps going and going until you say no, and then the scene stops. And it doesn't even, it doesn't matter whether logically, a no would work there. As soon as you say no, the scene stops. I'm going to give you an example of that. When I arrived here at Putnam, there were all these signs taped to the door that said, no food, no drink, no cell phones, no this, no that. And it wasn't a very welcoming attitude. It didn't feel like we wanted people even in the building. And then once they got in the building, did we even want them to stay? So taking down a lot of that no signage, no, you don't want to lead with no. Can an answer be no? Yes, but you don't want to start with no. You do want to start with a yes and first attitude. So that's why I've included that here in our slides. So find your why, clear is kind, and yes and are kind of the three phrases that rule my life and are really helpful check-ins when in anything you're doing, any project you're doing, even if it's something as simple as just making a sign for your book display. What story am I telling in these small amount of words? So once again, here is our Putnam County Library branding kit. So I don't know, anybody use Canva? I don't know, can I pull a live website up within this platform that you all can see? I don't know. So there's the free version of Canva, but we do use
chat. If you tell me the URL, we can put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. That's all right. I don't know if you all can see that. I don't think you can. Anyway, yeah, I'm seeing some yeses that you all use Canva. And God bless, right? I'm not a designer. Again, I'm not a PR person. I'm not a marketer by profession, and I'm not a designer. But some of these tools we're going to talk about as we move along um, help us be that for a very low entrance. Either you're using the free version or the professional version, which is like $150 a year. When compared to like actually farming out, a lot of your marketing, that's a really entrance level price point. So we've definitely gone that way. Um, so these are our colors. So when we did have a local designer design our logo when I first got here. And actually, he did that pro bono as kind of a donation to the library, which I thought was really nice. So, they gave us our hex codes. So those were our colors. And then when we started making images on Canva, we used, slightly lighter versions or darker versions, depending on, what the sign needed. So signage that is very like institution based, like the range signs on the end of our bookcases or anything that's super informational has to go in the brand colors. And then we have some approved fonts, and again, I like things clear, very easy to read, so our fonts aren't script. Our fonts are very easy to read. There is time and a place for kind of fun fonts, but if you really want people to see what you're trying to tell them, a loopy font probably isn't what you're going to want. So that's those are all tools that we use in our Canva kit. And then next, if I can get the slide again, there we go. I also, this is just a snapshot, our West Virginia Library Association. I'm trying to bring us back into, and this is even more difficult because we have 5 locations here at Putnam for our libraries, and we have 5 or 6 different people who design their programs and things, and all together in Canva. Now, an entire statewide organization trying to have everyone have their marketing and any messaging that comes out from the association look the same is a lot harder. And for years, we didn't have an association Canva or any kind of brand kit. So just recently we have, and that really has made the association look more professional and have a more cohesive story to tell as we send out like statewide communications. All right. So I know we're going to talk about nuts and bolts, and the reason your conference organizers had reached out to me was a presentation I had given probably a decade ago for an article I had written even longer ago than that. And honestly, it's still applicable. And I didn't send in those slides, but I can afterwards because this presentation slide still lives on our West Virginia Library Commission website, which is the state agency for public libraries here in West Virginia. And that's where I worked first when I moved home after going to the University of Pittsburgh for grad school. So while I was living in Pittsburgh before grad school, I actually was a manager in a bookstore. I was a manager at Barnes & Noble. And we invited teachers and librarians into the bookstore. And I gave a presentation about marketing your library like a bookstore. And then I have since turned that presentation into an article for the magazine and a slideshow. So like I said, I can send that afterwards. But we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the evergreen things you can do that stands the test of time, whether it's now or 5 years ago or 10 years ago or however long I've been giving a similar presentation to this. All right, let's just need that. All right, marketing your library like a bookstore. Because when you walk into a bookstore, it feels good, right? It feels friendly, it feels welcoming. And I know most libraries want to feel like that. Taking down a lot of the no statements does really help with that, as we just referenced. Yes, you have rules, you have codes of conduct, and you want to post those, but you don't want the very first thing people see when they come in is just no, 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 no. When they come in, you want them to get a snapshot of what your library is all about. So we're going to talk about first impressions. What do your patrons learn about your library when they first enter? Recognizing your best areas of real estate in your library. is there a table by the front door that, you leave kind of like your monthly calendar of events, or maybe coloring sheets for the kids, or your trifold brochure with all of your information. Is that up front? Is it clear? um, Clean and clear signage, as we discussed, and small displays, because while you also don't want to have them walk in to just no, 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 you also don't want to bombard them with too much as they're walking in, because then they'll just get overwhelmed. And sometimes when you walk into, especially a big bookstore like Barnes& and Noble, you're like, whoo, this is a lot. But you'll notice that they usually have some like smaller displays. Sometimes it'll be like one of the ladders, or it's a small table with maybe 10 to 12 books, and the bigger displays are further into the store as you get into the store. So you're not just woo overwhelmed as soon as you walk in, and that's good for your library as well. I know at most of the Barnes and Nobles back in the day, we called it the power aisle. Again, like as you walk in to your library, is there a clear path to your customer service desk? Is there a kind of a clear path for people to see what's what? Again, you don't want to clog up the entryway so they can't get an idea of what they're going to walk into. The main path to your library's hub, which your customer service desk. The displays leading to this area should remain simple, but make an impact. And here is really kind of your less is more area. Now, my personal motto is more is more. That's ask my staff. But sometimes less is more. Again, that's where your 4 or 5 or 6 book display is going to go, and not your 10 to 12 to 15 book display. End caps, end cap displays, or shelf displays within your library. As people start to walk further in, we have some end cap shelves on our graphic novel aisle. So we have usually 3 to 6 books on that, and it's just enough to give people a taste, but it's not an overwhelming thing for them to look at. Creating display space. Take a fresh look at your current display space. Can you change it around? Has it gotten stale? Sometimes you put out a great display and it doesn't move. Try it in a different area. Maybe it's the right books, it's just in the wrong place. And then I'll keep a few maybe permanent displays, like your new books rack, or bay or bookshelf, whatever you do with your new books. We have a permanent staff recommendation shelf by the front, because people like to know what we're reading as well. We don't, here at my current library, we don't put our names on it, but I've worked in places that it's like, oh, Megan read this, or you have the shelf talkers, which is a great way to share your reader's advisory, but without needing to talk to the patron, because sometimes patrons do want you to tell them, and sometimes they just kind of want to go look for things. So that's a way to kind of sneak that in. I know we talked a little bit about signage and Canva. Canva really has changed the game, at least for our designs, but this has remained the same. The keys to good signage: consistency, clarity, color scheme. So once you recognize your colors, like I said, here's our WVLA colors. We're going to go back to Putnam's, and conciseness. Brevity is the soul of wit. You don't want a ton of words on your signs because they're not going to read it. We all know that, right? We put up important signs, that give instructions, and they're not going to read it. So, be as brief, concise as you can on your posters, on your flyers. It's going to get you further. So, like I said, the 4 C's of good signage: consistency, clarity, color scheme, and conciseness. And there are many different ways to display books. I like to do, does anyone do like tablescapes at their house, or in their decor, where you do different elevations? You have some books stand on some stands, or like in my house I've got like little blocks of wood that kind of gives the back row some height, and then you kind of decorate out from that. You can do stacks of spines and let people take a look like that. In April, who's ever done like a book spine poetry shelf? That's a lot of fun. So that's an easy way to display things. Pyramids. When you are at a bookstore and, they have a lot of copies of the same book. Usually at a library we don't, but, they have the stack with the most copies of a book, and then they kind of ramp it down to the edges of the table. So those are all ways to display different things or for people to look at. Like I said, the slideshow that I'll share with you all afterwards, the old presentation, has a lot of pictures on all the different ways we have displayed books. Display themes, like sometimes you're just out of ideas, right? But the good thing is that there are so many different like holidays, or we get the Chase's Book of Events. I don't know if any of you all know that book. And you see a lot of it on the internet as well, but it's National Donut Day, it's National Daughter Day, it's National Dachshund Day. So that book has it all in it, but you can also pull it from the internet. Sometimes we'll do like a month's worth of those kind of fun, silly days and do a display. Or we'll find author birthdays and pull books from them out and do an author birthday display. It's great. ALA and PLA and all of our various national organizations and your statewide organizations have a lot of different weeks. Freedom to Read Week, National Library Week. I believe this week is Friends of the Library Week. So you kind of have those built-in celebration weeks that does make display ideas handy. Like I said, staff recommendation. People like to see what the staff are reading. So that can be an evergreen one. If you have space in your library. Monthly and holiday themes. Not every month has a holiday, but most of them do. July and August beach reads. We can't keep that display full of books. That one goes. Award winners. We do a lot of book to screen displays, especially if like when Red, White, and Royal Blue came out. We pulled out the old book to screen poster and made a display of what all was coming out, because people may not always realize that, oh, that movie I loved was a book first. Also, another idea for an easy display is first in the series. We have a lot of great series, and we get new patrons all the time, and they may be classics to us, or we think, oh well, everyone's read them, but that's not always true. So making a display of, oh, this is the first book in the series, is a great way to get people interested in those long-standing series. New arrivals, I'm sure most of you have some kind of new bookshelf. Be flexible. A display doesn't have to be put up on the first of the month and then forgotten and then take it down. Sometimes a display can stay up just for a couple days. I had a staff member who was going through our retro posters and found one from the 80s with Mary Lou Retton on it. We're from West Virginia. She's, one of our state's heroes, and she has not been well lately. And it's been in the news that, she's been struggling, I believe, with pneumonia. So, we made a little display, cheering on Mary Lou Retton, pulling out books about her. That won't stay forever. It's just a couple days, but it's very topical. And was a nice display to put up. So we've talked about displays, we've talked about some marketing. Does anybody have any questions now? If you do want to wait till the end, that's fine. But if we just want to talk about stuff in the middle, I'm fine with that. I don't know if you all can just like unmute yourselves and talk at any point, or raise your hands. Like I said, I am a conversational type presenter more than a talk at you type presenter, so always happy to get your all's opinions on things. If not, we'll move a little beyond signage and things like that into some of my tried and true customer service hints. I know in library lingo they're patrons, but I've also been encouraging our libraries here in Putnam and in West Virginia to get away from lingo. We all hear it with like corporate buzz speak or, jargon words. And we all know what like the circulation desk is. But if you get a brand new library patron, they're not necessarily going to know what that is. I'll give you an example. When I worked at the Library Commission, our graphic designer, did not have a library background. And I asked him for a new circulation desk sign. And the sign looked like we were an HVAC company, because to him, circulation was airflow. And so obviously we went back to the drawing board on that one. But it's not getting lost in the lingo. It's making it as accessible to them as possible. And sometimes the word patron also can kind of be a bit of a barrier. So even though money isn't exchanging hands, they are a customer, and we are giving them service. My number one rule, even in small libraries, here in Putnam, we have 1.5 people libraries. And sometimes you can't always leave the desk, but if you can, if someone is looking for a book, you walk them to that book. You put that book in the patron's hands. That's a holdover from working at a bookstore or working in retail. Because if you just point and send someone off into space, you don't know if they're actually going to find that book or buy it. So you have lost potentially a sale. And again, we're not passing money over, but we are in a transaction of trust. If our computer says we have something and we just point them to the general direction, we don't know if they found it or if they're just going to leave disappointed and then go badmouth us out to the rest of the community that we didn't help them find the book they wanted. So put the book in the patron's hands. If you don't have it, offer to find it. And I know this sounds like really simple, but it is a huge thing. Again, we're not starting with no, like, oh, no, we don't have that. It is still a no, but, which is the second rule of improv. So yes, and is the number one rule. No, but is the second rule. Be as efficient as you can. So, we're a public place. Sometimes people want to stand and talk to us for a long time. And that's fine when, it's a little slow. But, if there's a big, long line, you do kind of need to move people along. So there's a time and a place for everything. Greet everyone with eye contact and a smile. I know library service can sometimes attract introverts, and that's fantastic. I have a lot of introverts on my staff, but they're introverts who like people and who want to work with people. The very first question I ask in any employment interview is, why do you want to work here? Invariably, the answer is, I love to read. And then the next question is, well, how do you feel about people? And if the answer is, I don't want to talk to people, then, I do let them know that this is not the job for them. So greet everyone with an eye contact and a smile. This really is a cardinal rule. And it really goes back to, kind of like our personal brands and our library brands and who we are as people and as semi-public to public figures. Don't take it personally if someone's in a bad mood, whether that's your coworker or the patrons who come in. Even if sometimes things feel personal, people could just be having a bad day for whatever reason. In the library, we help people with the business of life. Sometimes we're faxing delicate documents for them, or we're helping them try to find a job, or we're helping them find books on grief for their kids, or divorce, or these are hard things. And so when people lash out, it's not necessarily us. So don't take it personally if someone's had a bad day. Is a cardinal rule of marketing, of customer service, of all of it. All right, so that was just an expansion of that. Atmosphere. Bookstores are really good about this, and libraries are too, especially now. But bookstores really perfected the art of drawing the customer in. Come in, stay a while. We want libraries to be like that too. Do you have comfortable seating? Do you have a nice, bright place for people to read the magazines or check out the newspaper, or just to be for a while, to charge their phones? Trying to make the whole place, the whole institution, as welcoming as you can, and that includes how we interact with people, but also it is the atmosphere. Bright paint, and it doesn't have to cost a lot. Sometimes a fresh coat of paint will mean the world, and it's not the most expensive thing. Our neighboring county, Kanawha, here in West Virginia, just had a huge renovation, and when they did, they added a coffee shop. I'm jealous. So that is another gathering place for the community and a way to get people who, think they might not like libraries into the library. So think about coffee shops, comfortable seating, separate spaces for, your teens. That's a tough age. You're not a kid, but you're not an adult yet, and so letting them have their own space is important. Um, I know we're all hopefully past the age of shushing, but no shushing. Um, you know, that's not the image we want to project to people. So, all right, we're gonna wrap some things up. So, all right. I see a question come up, so I'm going to read that, and we can start some discussion on that. All right, Melissa asks, she can't seem to make headway with outreach to the local high schools. Yeah. Do you have any suggestions on a way to market the teen programs that would be helpful to get high schools on board? I've offered to do a library presentation to the students, printed flyers, digital flyers, library cards, etc. Yes. Getting teens in the library is a national problem, and not just in libraries. Getting teens for any uh, industry is hard. I know here in our county, either they're heavily into sports, and we're not going to see them again until their 20s when they have kids, or they're already working jobs to help their families. Putnam County has, half of our county is affluent, and the other half is extremely rural. It's like I run two very different institutions here. So getting the teens is very hard. I wish I had a better answer for you. Our success has been tweens. If you can get them in the 11 to 13, you may be able to keep them as they get to high school. But trying to catch a 16-year-old and getting them into the library is hard. What we also have tried and had some success at is our outreach. So having them come and volunteer, we have done a multi-generational computer class where we had the teenagers teach our senior citizens, and that helped. So they felt less like we were doing a program at them and more like we were trusting them to partner with us for this program, because a lot of high schools have community service hours that they have to fulfill. So that's a good way to, kind of get them in and keep them, and maybe they'll go tell their friends. All right, Julie is saying our teens love D&D, cooking, and our programs after hours. Yeah, that's, if you can find a teen or two who wants to lead a book group, or if you do have staff who like tabletop gaming or whatever it is, do that. Some of my younger staff members here, I'm very good about, we hire for the basic positions, but the longer you work here, we find out what you're passionate about, what you're talented at, and I 100% will mine everyone's talents for programming, even if they're not on the quote unquote programming team. So I do have a younger staff member who loves the tabletop game, so we have a lot more of those, and it feels organic. It doesn't feel like we're trying too hard to try to get teens in, because that's something about teens. You can't chase them too hard, because then they're just going to be like, well, no, I'm not going to do it, because they're just Melissa, I wish I had a better answer, but it's not just you, it's everyone. Like I said, you can get them between 11 and 13 and you'll see them again around 24, but that 14 to 18 is a very hard age to get into the library. All right, who else has some questions? I will say, before we kind of get into more of the Q&A, to that own self be true. Shakespeare had something going on there. Again, like talking about the teens, they know when you're being disingenuous if you're just doing things to draw people in that aren't your library's personality. Institutions have personalities too. So in all this talk about branding and marketing, you don't want to do something that's not authentic, because it will last for a while, but people will see through it. So that's why you have to find your why before you even really can think about how to tell your story out in the community. So be true to yourself. If your library is D&D and cooking and after hours programs, that's fantastic. If your library isn't, that's okay too. You don't have to try to be the same thing as other people just because you think it might bring in people you're not normally getting. Um, all right, so here's my thank you for you all coming. I really hope that some of this was helpful. Again, some of it's evergreen. I've been giving a similar presentation for almost a decade and a half now. Some of it doesn't change, and some of it does. For as quickly as technology changes, the keys to good customer service, the keys to good programming, the keys to good communication don't change. And that's why we can say, look them in the eye, walk into the book, be as authentic as possible. And it doesn't matter what the latest fad in Canva or design or anything like that. You'll still stay true to your library's self and mission. So. All right, hit me with questions. Or examples, or whatever you all are doing to do some cool marketing in library, or I'll tell you how we get some people that you might not expect. We have just recently purchased a mobile library, so it's not a bookmobile, but it's a nice van that we take out to communities. But even before that, show up where they don't expect you. We do have, like I said, half of the county is, more on the suburban side and half is very rural. So I know we're not reaching our rural patrons as much as we are others. So even, in the early days, I took a tent out to the Putnam County Fair and sat at the fair for a week to tell people, what all they could get at their library, even though they may not think of themselves as readers, or, oh, I don't need a library. I don't read, but you might need to print something, you might need a notary. So showing up where they don't expect you is sometimes can pay really big dividends. Melissa, going back to the teens, we work a lot with our teen drug prevention organization here in Putnam County. It's called the Putnam Wellness Coalition. So we go with them into schools to do some programming there. And then we have seen some of those students come and see us afterwards, or we know they're clicking into our tough subjects link tree that we crafted for them. So again, partnering with some different type people, showing up where they don't expect you. We've sat at farmers markets. We've any town festival. That's definitely a must. This past Saturday, I sat in the rain and the cold for 6 hours, but I had some of the best conversations with people who didn't use the library that I've had in a long time. So again, that's all part of our why. It may not be your all's why, but we found that some of those techniques work. So, all right, anybody else? I mean, I know I'm the presenter, but I've talked a lot. I do like to hear from other people if you all have any comments or questions. All right. Well, I really appreciate everyone. And my contact information is here. If you think of something afterwards, I will also, like I said, you've seen this slideshow. I will send the other one for the older program too, which has some of the really specific things about displays and things like that. Yeah, I really hope you all enjoyed the session. I do appreciate the invitation. And I hope you all have a great Halloween and then holiday season.
Thank you.
Yeah, Melissa, you said, is there a link to the older slideshow? There is, and I'll send it to, who's our moderator?
You can send it to Amy Olson.
I'm gonna send it to Amy, so that way you can have both of them if you would like. So, all right. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, Megan, for presenting.
All right.
Go ahead and stop the recording.